Well, this was kind of a disaster, though I kind of like the look of it, and but I think it's just beyond the pale. We will consider it for a future effort, maybe some collage. Anyway, we're going to be doing some marbling today, and we're going to do some runoff sheets, and it's going to be a whole lot of experimentation. Hi everyone, welcome to my Shoreline Studio. I'm Sybille Muschik. Behind the camera is Joshua Blanc. Now I've been doing marbling for quite a long time. I'm not an expert. I like the Ebro masters from Turkey and other places. But I do like experimenting with it, and we had a request. Well, it was sort of in the form of a question, but the person asked me if you can put more paper on after you've done the first sheet and pick up whatever paint is left on your size. And you really can't, but you can do something close. So if you have a lot of paint left and you've picked it up by sheet, you can add more paint in if it's the kind of paint that you want in the same color range and so forth. That's fine. But generally, once you clear the vat with a sheet, that's it. Then you clear with paper, just some newsprint, just like this. And then you're set to go. And I have a little garbage can there, and I just throw all that stuff in there. Okay, so I prepare my paint, and I'm just using acrylic paint. The high flow or medium viscosity paint. And I've got this one. It worked for the gold, so it's going to work. This is Liquitex. The rest of them are Amsterdam paints. And this is rich copper. And I've just put a tiny smidge in there. And I'm using Zinsser. This is latex extender. I'll put it in the description for you, but you can get it in any hardware store. So you just add about the same amount of the extender to the paint. You don't really need to measure it. And then be sure and put the lid on. And then just use a stirring stick. Stir it up good. And the consistency is a little like milk. Not totally fluid, but not like cream. This is pretty good. And we'll try it. We're going to do a test sheet at the moment, but I wanted to show you this process, and I'll go through a few of the tools too. So I think hubby made this one for me, and there's a kit. You can get marbling kits, and you use these little stick things, and then you just beat it on your side of your hand for little dots. So I've cut my paper to size. I'm working very small. Most Ebro marblers have a great big huge vat, and we prepare our paper for marbling with acrylic with alum. So, and the proportion is 1.5 teaspoons to a cup of boiling water. And that gives you quite a bit for preparing sheets. And you prepare one side, well, you can prepare both if you like, but prepare one side and then put a little X on the top. In this case, we have pages that have already been painted on, or just the rub-off sheets. And our question from the viewer was, the second part of the question was, can you re-marble sheets? And yes, you can. So put more of the prepared alum and let it dry, and then hopefully you will get a good result. Now there is a consideration you have to think about, and that is acrylic paint is plastic basically. So if you're putting on your alum, and I just use a little sponge brush, it may not soak in, it may be you know, fluid on top and just run all over the place. And that was the problem with this piece. When I marbled it, I mean, some of it happened on the side here, but a lot of it just ran off. But then I did have trouble last night. It was too warm in here. So temperature is a consideration. So you want to have between 18 Celsius to no more than 22, 23. After that, the paint starts to separate and do weird things. So keep it cool. Now, as I said before, we have some brayering off sheets and other things. And I've marbled some already. So this first batch turned out a little strange because my paint was separating. And I was using Carrageenan, which I don't know, went really thick on me later. So, but the Kelgin, you can get it from places like Opus in Vancouver and Kelowna. It worked fine. So this was a piece that I did with the Kelgin. And with Kelgin, you have to, after you do the marbling, you have to put it in a water bath and very gently swish it back and forth to get most of the sizing off. So, but this one worked out pretty good. I'm just going to keep a very simple palette today. And here's another one. And this was early on before things got really crazy. And that turned out not too bad. Just the yellow parts and all that, that was the stuff underneath. This is fairly thick paper, but you know, you can use just bond paper, it's fine. So we're just going to do a test run. This is cardstock, and well, maybe we'll throw some of that nice copper in there. And we'll get rid of this. And we're just going to do a lot of dots. Basically, that's what I want to do. And stir. Marbling is really fun to teach. People just ooh and ah from the result. If you have too much sizing, your paint will, you know, not move at all. Not enough, and it's too liquidy. I think what we have now is just right. And the formula is strange because on the internet it said 4 tablespoons per liter, and that's way too much. So cut it down to maybe 1 teaspoon per liter, and then I think it works. You can always add more. If it's too much, you can add more water, and you just put it in your mix master or whatever little you can stir it by hand, or some people have drills and things with attachments that, but this is just burnt sienna with a little bit of the Cinzer medium in it. So we're just going to drop a whole bunch of different dots in. This is called the stone pattern, by the way. And they're quite interesting. And I have just a little bit of water on the side here and tip it off. So I can change a little bit of yellow. Just for some contrast. If you have an air bubble or two, pop it, or otherwise you get something the color of the paper. Well, it might not be bad with these crazy papers that we have here, but In most cases, if it's a white sheet, then you just have a white spot, which may or may not be very pleasing. Here's our copper. Ooh. We might have put a little bit too much Zinsser in it, but that's okay. You can add more paint. Now, if you get too much of this Zinsser, you know, stuff in there, with kits, you also get kind of a marbling medium that helps with making paints float. But I thought I'd save some money, and this stuff is reasonable, and you can buy it, you know, just about anywhere. So let's print this on this test sheet just to make sure that everything's working. Now it picks up the image really fast, so not a problem. Now in my sink I have just a pan of cold water, and then you put it in and then slide it gently back and forth so you're not disturbing the image. But once it's bit into this, don't forget we have prepared the paper with alum, and once it bites into the alum, it you can scrape it off if that helps. And you have a fabulous result. Look at that. Okay, so that's the way it should be, right? So now we'll see about these other papers that we've prepared. So I'm just going to put this in my little vat. And that just takes the starch off. And I'll give it to Josh to place. Right. Now, okay, so we have still floating on the surface paint. It might be just below the surface, so, but we can add, because we're running with the same, you know, groups of paints here, it shouldn't be much of a problem. If you're changing colors totally, then be sure and clear your sizing. I'm just putting lots of copper down. And let's try for some yellow. And you can go like this is the formal way. You have more control of the dots. Not the size of them so much, but just where you're placing them. So I hope this answers the questions for everybody, and our nice subscriber who posed the questions. Now I'm just wondering if a little bit of gold might give even more of a sparkle. So the thing to do then, if you are using, preparing runoff sheets, to use one that you haven't overprinted too many times. And I'm stirring madly here to make sure the paint is mixing with the medium, the Zinsser medium, so that the paint will float. Our temperature is pretty good at the moment. Last night when I was working with this, the paint was doing really strange things. It was breaking up and okay, we'll just Just some little dots. And we haven't saturated the size yet. It's still moving. So, just for interest's sake, we can do some of the patterns. See, yeah, the size is perfect because it's moving just right. The shapes are pretty well staying put. Let's do these kind of feathery tree-like things. Now, I have a black sheet here, and hopefully, especially the metallic paint will sit on the surface and glow over the back. You have to kind of worry that it's not too dark or nothing is going to happen. And the metallics might make this whole idea work. Fingers crossed. You never know, we're always experimenting here. By the way, we post every 2 weeks as far as we can. There are occasional lapses because of holidays and whatnot, but we do our best. So here's what happened. Let me put it here and you can see it. It's more in focus. And remember there was a black thing underneath and some black marks. And now we've got our pattern on there and it's showing up not badly on top of the black there. So this can be done over sheets that have been previously marbled. Okay. Or painted or used as roll-off sheets. Okay, here's a sheet that's been prepared and it's really dark. Now we'll see if the our paint will actually even stick, not just run off the surface. We'll use a lot of the metallics and maybe some of this burnt sienna. Handy having that little container of water because it just takes the paint off real quick. Okay, here's our copper. Let's put lots on, yes. I don't really want to get into too much black at this point because when there's too much medium in here, the black will sink and then it really muddies your fluid here. Okay, that's lots of copper. Okay, so just swirling around our yellow. And it's still moving. When the paint moves like that, we call it traveling. Some paints travel better than others. Yellow tends to travel quite a bit, so I don't usually put it in at the beginning. Many times it's probably wise to start with black because it travels quite a bit, but as more paint goes in, it tends to sink. So put that in at the beginning if that's what you want. That's looking good. Should we try this? Okay. Just go down. And then across. It just makes that pattern smaller and smaller. And then you can manipulate it back and forth like that. There's a pattern called a peacock feather, which is quite intricate. So let's see if this shows up on the purple. And this is just bond paper. So rub-off sheet. Oh, I didn't quite cut it to size. My size here is 7.5 for the sizing vat. Just let it run off. Yeah, look at it's gorgeous. Okay, so that's working. Okay, so we're going to change colors a little bit, and so now we have to clear this vat. Hopefully the sizing is going to hold a little bit longer. Now, one thing you have to do with the sizing is you know, if you do it in your blender or Mixmaster to mix it all in, because it comes as a dry, sort of a granulated powder. It takes time for the bubbles to sort out and settle down, so about 12 to 24 hours. So you have to do your sizing, you know, a day or two ahead of your marbling project. And I was kind of in a rush last night, and that didn't help because I had no end of trouble. So these containers work pretty well. It's just aluminum. They're cake pans. Let's start with red. High flow acrylic paint with a little bit of the Zinsser added to it, and shake it really well. And it's fairly old paint, so it does break up a little bit. It's separated out a little bit, and haven't done any marbling for almost a year. You can see that the paint sort of there. Good enough. Again, we'll use some yellow. And there's not too much of the medium because the yellow is spreading nicely. When it sinks and you probably have too much Zinsser medium. And maybe you've, you know, used up too much of our sizing. And then you have to change, add more stuff. Okay. Let's see, I guess in this case we'll add the gold. And that's traveling really well. We have quite a dark sheet to do, so let's hope that the marbling will actually do something. We still want a beautiful result, because you can use these papers for collage or for cards, and everybody will ask you, well, how did you do that? Especially other gel plate printmakers, they will not know. Okay, let's still put some dark in there. Our last one will add the black to it, because if it sinks, then we've messed up everything. But that's okay. And we will use the other sizing and see if our paint works in there. Like I said last night, I didn't have any luck with it. Our paint broke up. Mind you, it hadn't sat yet and it was warm in here. So then we'll know that the Kelgin is better or it's about the same. Well, I like it the way it is. Okay. Okay, this was one of our pattern border pieces. And so be mindful of your composition. This is quite a heavy paper, so let it sit for a little bit, not too long. And we'll scrape this one really good. Ooh, look at that. And it's not falling off, even though the alum might not have done much. So you can see a little bit of the border on there. This is turned into not a bad piece. Okay. Okay, this time we'll clear the sizing as far as I were able to at this point. Some of it's sunk now. And we're going to do some dark colors because it's the last, I think, that we have to change. And we're going to be changing to the Carrageenan. And like I said, that could be a total disaster. But on the other hand, it might just work. So you don't learn things unless you try stuff. Okay, so we're going to start with the black. Notice these little bottles. These are great for marbling. I got them from the drugstore. And they have, you know, a fair amount of control. You can see the fuzzy edges. That means our Zinsser is a little bit saturated. And we have some bubbles to deal with. And this is how you can tell that you need to change your sizing here. Because our red, which usually, that's because the black takes up so much. I don't know if green will help. No, it's just dropping down to the bottom. Okay. I guess maybe a little bit of gold. I think there's a fair amount in there already that seems to just stick around. So this is how you can tell that you're at the bitter end. And I'm not sure it will print do a slight Aubrey Beardsley. Has these strange convoluted figures with long legs and things of that nature. Although I don't think we're going to be trying for a face in this. Okay, we'll see what comes of it. Now I think this was just one pass over the paper. And it was a rub-off sheet, I think. maybe a background sheet. We'll see if it's marbled anything. Scraping it off the side. Okay, well, it's fairly successful. You can see the pattern on the side and definitely over the blue. Okay, it wasn't a total disaster. And we are just going to get rid of this. And we'll take a small interlude and we will change to our Kappa Carrageenan and we'll see if anything happens with that. Okay, so this is the Kappa Carrageenan. It's a seaweed product. It's a vegan gelling agent. So it usually works really well for marbling. Last night I was having trouble. It hasn't been 24 hours yet, and the lumps tend to dissolve and behave themselves. So I don't think we're quite there yet. I kind of doubt anything is going to work in this, but we can try. And like I said, the recipe online I think was a bit ambitious with 3 tablespoons. I think it's more like 1.5 to 2 teaspoons for a liter. Maybe it should be a gallon. I don't know. Whatever. Bit of experimenting. So let's try with the gold. It's floating, but okay, a little bit of the burnt sienna. See, it's acting very differently than the other one. So you definitely have to let it sit for your 24 to 36 hours. Very gelatinous. And maybe some yellow. You can see how the paint is breaking up. This is what was happening last night. Yeah, it's not really doing much of anything. We can try. Yep, you can see it's just sort of running down. You don't need to put this in a vat of water, but there's no pattern. It's just sort of so. Okay, Carrageenan is good, but you do need to let it rest for that amount of time. We know that the Kelgin works really well, and so your choice how you want to go. And but I would probably stay with Kelgin. The other one has a shelf life too, and this one is December 1827, which is pretty good. But it really does, you know, get very gelatinous, and you have to work with it, and you'll have to figure out the formula. Like I said, start with maybe a teaspoon in a liter of water, and then let it sit for maybe up to 36 hours to, you know, just be a normal size. Because you can see it's still lumpy and still working. So for this, the professional paints work really well, and that's what the Hebrew marblers use. So anyway, now you know. So there we are. I'm not going to even do much with this one. It's still running all over the place. It's still an interesting paper, but you know, it really didn't marble anything. So now clean up. Spots everywhere. So if you're seeing spots, I know you're marbling. Okay, so take care, have a lovely summer, and don't forget to check out all our upcoming videos. We have lots of them. We publish twice a month, and but we do shorts in between. We tootle around, look at the local scenery. We have so much to offer in this area, and we're always discovering something new. So take care, and take care of your families and yourself, and be kind to one another. Bye for now.